Hey guys, it's Frank from Cruising with Wheels. I know all of you have been waiting for the NCL corporate response to the Haven Hitman video. Well, we've been emailing back and forth for the last week, and here you go, the official corporate response to what we went through on the NCL Bliss for our Alaskan cruise. Right here on this episode of our Tales from the High Seas. So guys, here I am to explain what went down. Now, for those of you who have been following us on Cruising with Wheels, you know all about what my Tales from the High Seas segments are. They're dramatic, over-the-top expressions of what went on while Kevin and I were cruising. And in my diary, when I journal throughout the cruise, I write down all the crazy, wacky things that happened. But they are true. Every bit of it is true. Nothing is made up. So, for those of you who don't know the Tales from the High Seas and have been trolling us that we're drama queens and we're entitled and we're riffraff and that we should just go off and die somewhere and hope that the next ship we're on sinks to the bottom of the ocean. Sorry, not going to happen. That's what Tales from the High Seas is. It's entertainment that we bring to you in a crazy way when Kevin adds all the wacky sound effects and the digital wigs he puts on my head as I tell my stories of what happened. That being said, this Tales from the High Sea is going to be very different. I'm going to just sit here and I'm going to take you through step by step in chronological order exactly what happened and all the emails that were sent back and forth from Kevin and myself to NCL Corporate. So sit back, and I'm going to start with the first email we sent when we got back. We'll just kind of refresh it. I know you've heard it from the original Attack of the Haven Hitman video, but I want all of this to be included in this video. So I'm going to start with the 5-page complaint letter that we sent in to NCL. And it went to Andy Stewart, President and CEO. It went to Andrea Sugranis, Public Relations Team. Robin Lindsay, Vice President of Operations and Personnel. Harry Summers, Vice President of Public Relations. And Daniel Farkas, Senior Vice President, Ethics Officer. So let's go through the original letter again. To Andy Stewart, I am compelled to write this letter to address a major issue that occurred on the NCL Bliss inaugural Alaska sailing June 2nd to June 9th of 2018. I have almost a 20-year relationship with NCL as my first cruise was on the NCL Sky in 2001. Though my husband and I have sailed mostly on your cruise line, we have also sailed on Carnival, Royal Caribbean, Costa, and Princess. A total of about 30 cruises under our belt to date. We find your cruise line to be the most handicap-friendly and love the freestyle cruising atmosphere and are currently platinum status with your cruise line. NCL has a special place in our hearts. We booked the NCL Bliss back in January of 2017 Alaska being on our bucket list for a long time now, and it seemed to be the perfect scenario of cruising on your newest and largest ship. We watched her along the way, being built, being launched, going through sea trials, and eventually coming across the Atlantic. We had hoped to be at her christening on May 30th, but our schedules would not allow it. New York to Seattle is a huge trip for me. My husband Kevin and I have a YouTube channel, Cruising with Wheels. We are also on all the major social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. We use our almost 20 years of cruising experience and knowledge to help first-time cruisers as well as seasoned cruisers. We create many different types of videos: ship tours, cabin tours, food videos, cruising tips, daily vlogs of our adventures, and we live stream via YouTube while aboard your ships. We post a minimum of 3 videos per week, and the subscribership to our channel continues to grow every day. No one promotes the NCL brand on YouTube like we do, and we consider ourselves your unofficial brand ambassadors. Our channel has a focus on handicap accessibility on cruise ships, as I am now confined to a wheelchair since becoming ill in 2010. We always contact your public relations coordinator before each sailing, and we deal mostly with Andrea Sugranis. She has always been gracious and accommodating to us as we promote the NCL brand on most of our YouTube videos. She extends us VIP status as we are considered the media on board, which she keys in to your computer system. We check in at the Haven Lounge, pre-board with Haven guests, and are able to eat breakfast and lunch in the Haven restaurant if we choose. The use of a concierge and the use of the internet is essential to access all the social media platforms we use while on board to promote your brand. On our last sailing aboard the NCL Jade, October 26 of 2017, she afforded us these accommodations, and we sailed without any problems or issues. This was my 60th birthday cruise, a present, and our concierge, Cholette, was an absolute dream. This was not the case on our Bliss sailing. We arrived at the port terminal in Seattle and were checked in at the Haven Lounge by Martha, who did have us on the VIP list. She told us that Adrian from the Haven would be our concierge. We then boarded the Bliss, assisted by Felix, wheelchair assist, and Kevin, our escort to the Haven restaurant, as directed by Martha. We made our way on and into the Haven complex, where we encountered the problem. The concierge, and Adrian Bika, was standing at the doorway of the restaurant. He asked for our suite number, and I told him we were in cabin number 11629, but not in the Haven. And without letting me finish my sentence, he cut me off with, "You are not Haven guests. You do not belong here. You have to leave." His tone was rude, arrogant, and dismissive. We tried to explain, but he would not listen. And I said at one point, "You need to slow your roll a bit and listen." His response was, "I am slowing," but then immediately repeated his corporate response of, "You are not Haven guests, you do not belong here, you have to leave," and waved his hand at us to go away. We looked at him and asked, "Are you Adrian that's supposed to be our concierge?" His expression was sheer disgust, and as he said, "Absolutely not. Pamela, the hotel director's secretary, will be handling you." He obviously knew who we were, because if 2 strangers entered the Haven complex and asked him if he was our concierge, wouldn't the normal response be, "Who are you? You're obviously not in the Haven complex. Why are you here, and why would you even think that I would be your concierge?" He knew who we were, because his response was, "No, Pamela will be handling you." Our escorts on board, Felix and Kevin, were shocked and speechless as they wheeled me around and we were now forced to do the walk of shame out of the Haven complex and figure out where to go eat lunch. The experience made us feel absolutely humiliated and embarrassed. Our escorts took us down to the local to eat. We got to our cabin where we found many gifts and courtesies waiting for us. Haven robes and slippers, Haven bath, body, lotions and soaps, as well as champagne, wine, and chocolates. Many thanks to Andrea and the public relations team, as well as the Latitudes rewards team. This would not be the only horrible encounter we would have with Adrian, or that the other guests on board had with him, who had similar experiences. We met a couple, Wayne and Henrique, who were in the Haven aft suite on deck 11, cabin number 11312. They had the exact same encounter with Adrian. He accosted them at the Haven restaurant, demanding to know, quote, how they got in, what Haven guests they were with. The response to his rude, arrogant tone was, we're in a Haven suite. We paid thousands of dollars for it, and you better change that nasty attitude of yours. Adrian's response was, you're not in the Haven complex. They looked at him with total dismay and walked away. Wayne and Henrique told us that they were now done with NCL, as this was their first NCL cruise. They had planned to book the entire Haven complex for their upcoming wedding for all of their family and relatives. But not now. They asked us to provide them with information on MSC Yacht Club for their next cruise. This breaks our heart as we love the NCL brand. On Thursday, June 7th, we had our sit-down meeting with the hotel director, Hovo Sekulovic. We do a sit-down with every hotel director on every cruise we go on to pick their brain, get additional information for our viewers, and are able to give him input on our experience. Now, during the conversation, the problem of Adrian came up. We had already informed Pamela about it prior. He listened, and his response was, quote, in Adrian's defense, he's following corporate's guidelines to protect the integrity, sanctity, and purity of the Haven experience, and not allow non-Haven guests to be there. I said, I can definitely appreciate that, but as we all know, it's not usually the issue that's the problem. It's the way the issue was handled. And he totally failed. He wouldn't even listen to a word we had to say. And if protecting the purity of the Haven means to be rude to the guests, I guess he succeeded. Hovo agreed, and we continued to have a pleasant, frank discussion with Jen-Mark Opan, the access officer, in attendance. On Friday, June 8th, Pamela took my husband Kevin and our friend and YouTube fan Steve, who was in cabin 5431, but then was moved to cabin 5154, he had issues, up to laser tag area so he could film it. Pamela took them up via the back crew elevators, and then who would get on the way up? Adrian. He talked to Pamela, never acknowledged Kevin or Steve, and when Steve told Kevin that he and his wife would be back on the Bliss in the Haven complex in October for their Halloween cruise, he never acknowledged him at all. Steve repeated himself a second time, and as the door opens, Adrian looked at Steve and said, "Yeah, right," and walked away, at which Steve replied, "What a jerk." And Kevin and Steve just looked at each other and then looked at Pamela. And the reaction for Pamela was just, she shrugged her shoulders and looked at the two of them as if to say, oh, well, there you go. What can we do about it? I guess nothing. That's the way Adrian is. On Monday, June 4th, Pamela arranged for us to eat at the Haven restaurant for dinner. She and Hovo were concerned and upset at the way we were treated by Adrian. We insisted that we be escorted up so as not to be accosted by Adrian and thrown out again. We had a wonderful dinner, and our servers Alexis and the assistant maitre d' Lilibeth were just fantastic. We then met up with Wyland while we were there. We had prearranged and interviewed via his personal assistant Crystal prior to sailing. Crystal provided us with Wyland's personal cell phone number so we could contact him. We talked about the interview for our channel, and we made plans for later after his autograph signing and picture taking. We filmed the interview in front of the social where he was doing his paintings. We were able to meet the rest of his group and later on be with his mom Darlene and her friend Deanna. We heard that Wyland also had issues with Adrian. The final blow-up with Adrian came on June 9th, disembarkation day. We met Jean-Marc Opon on deck 8 outside of Maltings for priority wheelchair assist off the ship. Jean-Marc assigned us Ferdinand to wheel me off the ship. He took us through the back crew passage and elevators to get to the exit, as we were used to doing. We were in line with the other VIP guests when we saw Adrian next to the security guard at the podium. A shiver went up and down our spines. Adrian seemed to be courteous to all the guests leaving. The guard was scanning guest sail and sign cards to exit the ship. As we waited, my husband Kevin was scrolling through his cell phone to contact our private card service, GroundLink. Since we were off the ship 1 hour ahead of schedule, we wanted to get the car here as soon as possible. That's when Adrian started screaming at my husband Kevin. "I do not give you permission to film me. You have no right to film me. Put that down." Kevin's reply was, "I'm not filming you or anybody else, nor do I want to. I'm using my phone, and I don't appreciate your nasty attitude." Then the security guard reiterated that no filming was allowed, and Kevin replied that he was well versed with the filming policies aboard the NCL ships. Adrian's reply, "I don't appreciate your nasty attitude either." Kevin's response, "Rest assured that I'm going to report your nasty attitude to your corporate office." I sat there in my wheelchair, totally aghast at what I was witnessing, and I looked at the security guard and then at Adrian and muttered to myself, "What the blank? Dude, what is your problem?" The security guard looked down at me and said, "Your language?" And I thought to myself, the security guard apparently is more horrified at what I said and not the verbal abuse Adrian was dishing out towards us. As we were scanned and getting off the ship, Adrian came forward and continually his verbal attacks as we were exiting, at one point, was making a physical grab at Kevin. At this point, Kevin was so fuming and red with anger, he screamed back at Adrian, "F you. And I will be calling corporate." This all played out in front of Ferdinand and the security guard and all the VIP guests that were exiting the ship. If we had not been escorted off the ship by a concierge or the access officer like we usually are, Adrian would never have felt emboldened to do what he did. Ferdinand's comments after we were off the ship was, "That's how he always is. He's always nasty." In conclusion, we are not looking for any kind of monetary compensation. We are looking for this individual to be reprimanded for his intolerable actions towards your guests. We have always been treated with dignity, respect, and with the utmost courtesy by any and all of your crew members who clear the tables at the buffets, or by the maintenance crew who sweep and vacuum, than by your high-level head concierge to the Haven Complex. He acts like he owns the company, and not that he is an employee of the company, and is supposed to be courteous and pleasant to all the paying guests, no matter what cabin level they are. As for my opinion, after a 40-year career in corporate retail, now forced into retirement, this kind of behavior towards customers and guests would never have been tolerated in any of my 100 stores. And my husband Kevin, in his 27 years of owning his salon, would never tolerate this from any of his employees. This is definitely a black stain on the NCL brand. And there you go. That was the original complaint letter that we sent to corporate a day or two after we returned from our NCL Bliss Alaska cruise. I've read it right from the letter without the drama and the craziness that I brought to you with the original Tales from the High Seas. And now I'm going to take you to the next email we sent to the public relations team on July 6th. Almost a month later, after returning, we had heard nothing. And we said, Andrea, I hope this email finds you well. We wanted to thank you for providing us with the usual amenities and just wanted to reach out to you regarding our next cruise. Even though we experienced a major issue on the NCL Bliss, we have decided to go forward with our cruise on the NCL Getaway in November of this year. If you are able to extend us the usual amenities, it would be greatly appreciated. The only other request would be that you list out the specific amenities in an email for us. On the NCL Bliss, we had issues getting the internet, as they claimed they didn't know anything about public relations supporting us with it on board. We were advised if we had an email outlining the specific amenities that NCL had extended, that would be sufficient. But alas, we did not. So it took a few days until we were able to use the internet. Also, we were told that we would no longer be able to access YouTube via the normal minute package. So we would require what was extended to us on the Bliss going forward on our sailings, which was the unlimited internet package. In addition, we wanted to fill you in on some exciting news. We have planned a group cruise for our subscribers in January of 2020 aboard the brand new NCL Encore. Our group cruise coordinator from NCL is Sarah Kalor. We announced last night via live stream all about the details and have had an overwhelming response. At this point, 60 families have reached out to us to get Sarah's contact information for possible booking. Everyone is extremely excited about the Encore. So if you can get me whatever information you may have as it becomes available, we would definitely appreciate it. And if you happen to see any swag laying around for the Encore that we could do as a giveaway, that would be lovely. Thanks again for all you do, and I will look forward to hearing from you. Travel safe and cruise often. Kevin and Frank. Again, that was sent July 6th of 2018. We waited and waited and waited, and almost 3 weeks later, we had heard nothing. And on July 24th, we decided to reach out yet again, because at this point, we had contacted the corporate office. And on July 18th, we called Andy Stewart's office to see if there was any response to the complaint letter. And when we got through to his office, Catherine, who had answered his phone, immediately said, Andy Stewart is not taking any calls. We explained who we were, what had happened on our Alaska cruise, and that we had sent this email in to him. She said that the email had been received, but that it was automatically forwarded to Guest Relations Department that handles all complaints, and that Andy Stewart apparently only talks to people regarding pre-cruise issues, not post-cruise issues or complaints. She transferred us to Guest Relations, and we talked to Nikki, who confirmed to us that yes, indeed, the 5-page complaint letter had been received, which was good to know. But since the public relations team apparently were dealing with us from day one, they had referred it back to them. So the guest relations team that handles all the complaints bounced it back to the public coordinator. And so it was now on them, Andrea, and all of her team to now respond to the complaint. So again, as I said, we waited. And we had heard nothing. So 6 days later, on July 24th, we reached out to the public relations team now that we knew the ball was in their court. And they were the ones that were going to have to do the final response. And this is an email we sent. We are reaching out today to discuss the events that occurred on the inaugural sailing of the NCL Bliss, June 2nd to June 9th. Having reported the incident to the hotel director while on board, Hovo Sekulovic, we also wrote a letter to Andy Stewart on June 11th when we returned home, because we felt the multiple events by Adrian Bika were so egregious towards us and other guests, we were compelled to issue a written complaint directly to him. Having followed up with Andy Stewart's office on July 18th after 5 weeks of not hearing a response, Catherine told us it was automatically transferred over to Guest Relations Department. We spoke to Nikki, who then told us that it was transferred over to your department for a resolution and said that she would reach out to you as to why we had heard nothing. We have enjoyed a good relationship with you and your department. You have been so good to us and very generous and accommodating to our needs, and we have received some very unexpected surprises and gifts from you when we boarded. We continue to promote NCL to our viewers despite what occurred on the NCL Bliss sailing. We believe that one person on one ship on one cruise does not define an entire cruise line. It is very disappointing not to have had the courtesy of a response from anyone. We are not writing this email to debate the validity of our complaint, because it did happen. In our letter, we presented the facts, we provided names, dates, cabin numbers of the guests involved, as well as the names of crew members who were witnesses to all the incidents. Our viewers are now more concerned that NCL has made no attempt to issue a response. That seems now to be the bigger issue here. 6 weeks of silence, having communicated our complaint through 3 different departments, seems a bit rude and callous. It makes our near 20-year good relationship with NCL come into question. We emailed you on July 6th regarding our upcoming sailing on the Getaway in November. No response. If you are going to support us on the sailing or not support us, we just need to know. If NCL does want to continue to support us, it would be helpful to have a detailed list from you as to what you are willing to provide us with, so there will be no more confusion when we board. Your last email regarding the Bliss sailing, which we received from you originally in February 2nd, quoted on the email, "You will be provided the same amenities as before." It didn't help us on the Bliss sailing. We were advised by onboard department heads in the future to bring an email from public relations outlining exactly, item by item, what you are providing us with for each sailing. We have also created and booked a Cruising with Wheels group cruise in 2020 aboard the NCL Encore. Our group cruise number is provided here. Sarah Clore, your NCL group cruise agent, is handling this. To date, after 2 weeks of announcing it, we have already booked 50 cabins and 100 people. Our viewers are continuing to book every day. We are all excited to be on this sailing. Many people have urged us to cancel all our reservations with you, which we will not do. Our issue is with Adrian Bika, not NCL. As stated in our letter, we do not want anything from NCL. No money, no credit. We are looking just for an apology. Attempting to throw money at a problem is not the answer. No one wants Adrian terminated. He needs to be reprimanded and counseled. This incident cannot happen again to any other guests on board your ship. We know that NCL is better than this. Now, 2 days later, on July 26th, we received an email from Andrea, the official NCL corporate response to our complaint, having waited from when we originally sent it in, June 11th, to now, July 26th. Hi, Kevin and Frank. Please accept my sincere apologies for the delayed response. Also, I am truly sorry that you walked away from your experience with us dissatisfied and disillusioned. As you know by now, we strive to provide every guest with the ultimate experience. It troubles me greatly that your time with us was lacking. We have taken the time to look into this matter and have evolved a few of our processes to help prevent a situation like yours in the future. Please know that it was an unprecedented time for us with the recent launch of Bliss and her 5 inaugurals. The process for each inaugural was different, which we believe led to confusion among our team members. We are very happy to welcome you aboard Getaway and Encore, and we know that you will be having a wonderful experience. One of the policies we are revisiting as a result of your note addresses benefits afforded to media and bloggers who sail with us. We are currently revising our media and blogger sailing program, so please give us some time to come back to you regarding support for your upcoming cruises. On a related note, I have viewed your YouTube posting episode 29, Attack of the Haven Hitman, and to be candid, I am utterly embarrassed for our brand and myself. We aspire to provide the very best experience every time, so to see that post in the public arena gives me great pause. Given our long-term 20-year relationship, I would ask you to please consider removing the post. We will be back in touch with you shortly. Again, apologies for the delay. We are a very new team and are rebuilding the public relations function here. Thank you for making us aware of your experience, and thank you for your support over the years. Warm regards, Andrea. Confusion. Is that what happened? Everyone was confused? Revamping their public relations, media blogger support? I wonder what they'll come up with. I wonder what group won't meet the criteria for their support. I wonder who that could be. We responded that same day, July 26, 2 hours after receiving that email. We sent another email to Andrea, and this is what we said. Andrea, thank you for your rapid response this week. We do realize that you and your team are very busy with an entire cruise line's workload. We are glad that you watched the YouTube video. You know that our Tales from the High Seas segments are formatted to be a dramatic, entertaining expression of actual facts and experiences that occurred aboard cruise ships that we have sailed. Our viewers enjoy the crazy tales that happened to us, but nonetheless, they did happen. They are true. Being aboard the Bliss on her inaugural Alaska sailing, we did witness some confusion and some lack of experience among the crew. But we expected that. It's only natural that there were going to be some kinks here and there. However, your explanation of Adrian's actions towards us and others during the entire cruise does not chalk up to confusion. Crew members who are in need of more training do not attack guests aboard a ship. In our near 20 years of cruising, we have never come across a crew member who was as rude, nasty, and arrogant as Adrian. And at the end, verbally attacked us and made a grab for Kevin physically. Sorry, that's not confusion. That's a problem. We want to say that the letter to Andy Stewart would never have been written or sent, and the Haven Hitman video would never have been made if it wasn't for the actions of Adrian on disembarkation day, June 9th. We would have just let the incident on the first day at the restaurant pass as confusion, and the other incidents with the other guests as well. But to be attacked by a crew member was absolutely egregious. And we can't help but wonder in your response to us that you never mention his actions at all. You only talk about ship confusion. As we stated before in our email to you, this is not about NCL. This is about Adrian Bika. We can't tell you how many people have contacted us via YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter about their horrible interactions with Adrian since this video went public. The common theme to their stories seemed to be that they were Haven guests, but were in aft suites on decks 9 through 16 and not in the Haven complex. And Adrian would accost them as interlopers eating in the Haven, accusing them of sneaking in as undesirables. Complaints were made on the ship to guest services, only to be told, well, it's difficult to keep track of people. Not a good response in anyone's book. We want to let you know that we are releasing a new Tales from the High Seas video on Saturday, July 28th. It's called Cholette, NCL Concierge Dream Maker. It tells the story of a fantastic concierge aboard your NCL Jade ship from our October 2017 cruise to the Southern Caribbean. We are independent cruisers. We report the good, the bad, and the ugly of cruises. People want to know the real truth out there. Cruising isn't always sunshine, unicorns, and rainbows. The bad and the ugly is on you as a company to deal with and fix to make better. We want you to do better and be better because we think you are number one. Please do not put this on us as our problem. It's your problem, and you as a company need to address it. A real, true, genuine apology goes a long way. So far, there hasn't been one. P.S. Feel free to access our Cruising with Wheels Facebook page to see all the postings and comments regarding this issue. And may we also suggest reading through the over 400 comments left by our subscribers and the general public on the Haven Hitman video, along with our responses. We think you will find it enlightening. A few days later, On July 30th, we received the final response. And this was what we got. Short and sweet. Thank you, Kevin and Frank. We understand and appreciate your point of view, and once again we apologize that your experience so far what we aspire to provide. As always, we are working to be better and better. Per my previous reply, please note that we will get back with you regarding our media sailing program once it is all final. All my best, Andrea. There you go. NCL corporate response. There you have it. I know you've all been waiting. We thought we'd put together this video, a different Tales from the High Seas episode, very much just a straightforward read, email to email. You've heard the response. A lot of you have commented that you're very concerned as to what they were going to say and how they were going to respond. A lot of you said, I want to book with NCL, but I'm not going to book my cruise until I hear their response to you. Well, there you go. So, take it for what it is. Decide for yourself how you feel their response was towards us, and going forward, how you will deal with NCL as a cruise line. I know that Kevin and I have already made our decision in how we will decide on cruises going forward. So, there you have it. I want to thank all of you for joining me on this unusual Tales from the High Sea. A reminder to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat. And also, the big reminder to travel safe and cruise often. Enjoy!